Have you ever wished life came with like a blueprint? A clear guide to building something strong and meaningful, something that actually lasts? Well, believe it or not, one was written thousands of years ago. Today we're going to unlock Proverbs chapter 10, but we're not just going to read it, we're going to see it as a cinematic visual journey for building an absolutely unshakable life. So let's dive in and see what this ancient blueprint can show us.
We're going to walk through this chapter in 5 main parts. We'll kick things off with the foundation of our character, then jump into the incredible power of our words. After that, we'll look at our work, the inevitable consequences of our choices, and finally, the 2 very different destinies that emerge from it all.
All right, first up, a righteous foundation. This is all about the idea that a strong life isn't really built on what you have, but on who you are. And it starts with how you affect the people closest to you.
Okay, so verse 1 kicks things off with this powerful theme. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. You can just picture it, can't you? A split screen with a proud father bathed in warm light, and on the other side, a grieving mother in cool shadows. It shows our choices just radiate outwards. Then verse 2 tells us that treasures of wickedness profit nothing. Imagine a huge treasure chest just overflowing with gold, and then you watch as it all just crumbles into dust. That's the real value of stuff you get the wrong way. And finally, verse 3 gives us this picture of divine justice. A hand from heaven provides bread for a good person, while the greedy desire of the wicked just, poof, turns to smoke right before they can grab it.
Now this foundation, it's built with our actions. Verse 4 shows this perfect contrast between 2 hands. One is diligently, carefully stacking coins into a solid tower, while the other is just lazy, letting them slip away like sand. It's about creating value versus letting it disappear. Then verse 5 hits on the importance of timing. He who gathers in summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. So you see one person seizing the moment, working hard under the sun, while the other literally sleeps through the harvest, letting all that opportunity just rot on the vine.
So what's the end result of all this? Well, verse 6 says, "Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked." I mean, just picture a crown made of pure light forming over one person's head while a shadowy hand just clamps the mouth of another person shut. And this leads right into their legacy in verse 7. The memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot. The image is so clear, 2 tombstones. From one, a beautiful, flourishing tree is growing. The other is just crumbling into dust, covered in weeds.
Okay, so we've covered our actions. Now let's talk about our words. This next section shows us that our speech isn't just noise. It's like a currency, a tool that we use to build our reality, for better or for worse.
So let's see how this plays out. Verse 8 shows a wise person humbly accepting guidance, maybe receiving a scroll, while a chattering fool literally trips over his own big, empty speech bubble. Then in verse 9, the person with integrity is walking on a straight, secure path, solid ground. But the one who takes crooked paths, well, their path is broken, and they're found out. Verse 10 gives a great warning. Imagine a conspiratorial wink setting off a whole line of falling dominoes. That's what it means to cause trouble. And finally, verse 11 shows the ideal. A righteous mouth is like a well of life, pouring out a refreshing, life-giving stream of water.
Now we get to the source of our words. Verse 12 contrasts 2 massive forces. You see sparks flying from the word hatred, starting a raging fire of conflict. But then you see a warm blanket labeled love, gently covering and mending broken things. Then in verse 13, wisdom comes from the lips of the understanding. You can picture their words literally turning into light bulbs, creating new ideas. And verse 14 shows us how we handle knowledge. The wise mind carefully stores it up, like books on a library shelf, while the fool's mouth just opens up to a scene of total collapse and ruin.
Let's keep going. Section 3 gets into the relationship between our work, our wealth, and our character. It's really about what we truly profit from in this life.
Wow, verse 15 is just so visual. You see a rich man standing confidently on top of this mighty fortress, and its walls are built from shining gold coins. He's totally safe. But then the scene just cuts to a poor person whose flimsy little hut gets instantly washed away by this huge wave labeled poverty. It's such a stark image of how resources can give you security, and the lack of them can leave you completely vulnerable. But how is that security actually built? Well, these verses show us the path. It starts with verse 16. Righteous labor creates a path made of work tools, leading to a bright, thriving city. Then, along that path, verse 17 shows us that following good instructions is like following clear signs toward your destination. But ignoring them, that's like ignoring a wrong way sign pointing you right off a cliff. But then verse 18 warns us about something that can corrupt all our hard work: deception. Picture someone wearing a friendly mask, but behind their back, they're hiding a dagger.
And see, the chapter comes right back to the value of our words. Verse 19 is a warning against talking too much, and you can just picture someone literally drowning in their own flood of speech bubbles. Then verse 20 contrasts their worth. The tongue of a righteous person is like choice polished silver, but the heart of the wicked, it's like worthless charcoal. And finally, verse 21 shows the amazing positive impact. The lips of the righteous feed many people, their words literally transforming into loaves of bread for those who are hungry.
Okay, this brings us to the moment of truth. This section is all about the harvest. The consequences for each path we've seen become real, they become tangible, and they're absolutely unavoidable.
So these verses compare what different people get out of life, and you can see their fulfillment value right here on this chart. First, verse 22 tells us, "The blessing of the Lord makes one rich." And look, it has the highest value. It's like a pure gift from heaven with no catch, no sorrow attached. Now compare that to the fool in verse 23, who treats doing evil like it's a game. Picture someone juggling sticks of dynamite for fun. The fulfillment value is next to nothing. And finally, verse 24 shows that the desire of the righteous will be granted, which brings this huge amount of fulfillment, like watching a wish blossom into a beautiful tree full of fruit.
And now for the climax of this section. Verse 25 starts with this incredibly dramatic image. A dark, violent tornado just rips across the screen. You see it sweeping away everything that's flimsy and poorly built. Houses of straw, hollow structures, they are just obliterated in an instant. The wicked person and everything they've built is simply gone.
And then, silence. The storm is over. The screen is now this serene, sunlit landscape, and right there in the middle of it all, completely untouched by the whirlwind's fury, stands a single, powerful, unshakable stone foundation. That is the righteous person. They endure.
You know, after all that intensity, verse 26 gives us this sharp, super relatable image. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy man to those who send him. Just picture a manager physically wincing, like they just took a big swig of vinegar and got a puff of smoke right in their eyes. That's the feeling of pure frustration that laziness causes. It's so vivid.
And so, we arrive at our final section, the unshakable life. This is the long view, the ultimate destiny that's determined by the path you choose to walk.
This timeline really tells the whole story, doesn't it? Verse 27 shows us that the fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened. And you see it right there, a long, bright line stretching out for the righteous, while the wicked's line gets cut short suddenly. Then verse 28 adds the feeling to it all. The hope of the righteous will be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. So the righteous path ends in this starburst of joy, while the wicked's path just fizzles out into nothing.
Verses 29 and 30 give us our final image of stability versus chaos. For the righteous, the way of the Lord is their strength, and they will never be removed. You can just picture a magnificent ancient oak tree, its roots dug so deep into the earth that no storm could ever possibly move it. But the wicked, they will not inhabit the earth. They're like tumbleweeds, totally rootless, dry, and just blown away by the slightest little wind. So the chapter ends right where it spent so much of its time, the mouth. Verse 31 shows the mouth of the righteous bringing forth wisdom, almost like a healthy tree is growing right from their tongue. And in stark contrast, the perverse, twisted tongue is shown being decisively cut out. This all leads to the final summary in verse 32. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse. One brings life, the other brings corruption. It's that clear.
After this whole journey, the blueprint is pretty clear. There are two paths, two kinds of foundations, and two very, very different endings. So the only question left is the one this chapter is really asking each and every one of us. Your life is a story. Which path are you writing?